Hello everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel DB2 Funday, all about RDBMS. So today we are going to talk about these falling backup and tablespace backup and tablespace backup on partition database. So the today's core topic is generally, which I'm going to talk about backup, why backup is essential, why backup is important for us as a DBA, what is the need of backup, why generally we consider the backup on the databases. So before we dive into the today's agenda, I would like to emphasize more on, if you have not subscribed my channel, or if you are new to this channel, please subscribe my YouTube channel and like the video which I have already uploaded, and share as much as possible to your friends, colleagues, so that the knowledge which I am trying to impart to be imparted and shared between all the people who aspire to work on technology like databases we have. So without wasting much of your time, I would dive into the today's agenda. So what we talk about today is backup. Why backup is important in DBA's life, why we need basically backup in place. First of all, a very simple question comes in everybody's mind when you talk about your data. So when you set up a database, the first very question your client or your person who owns that data would be asking to DBS is how my data is secure, how what you're taking care to make sure my database is up and running 24 cross 7 cross 365 days. So to make sure my database is up and running, it's always available in case of any issues, any atrocities, any disaster happens at that particular place, whether I'm keeping my database secure, and my database is available to restore in case anything goes wrong. By mistake, somebody has dropped my table, somebody has dropped the data. So these all are the scenarios comes in mind when you generally talk about the backup. So today we are going to talk about how many types of backups we are in the database. So essentially, when we say backups as a utility, there are only two ways to take the backup in the database. One is the offline, second is online. Apart from offline and online backup, DB2 provides you the facility to take the table space level backup. Although we can take the table level backup, but we generally do not call that as a backup. So backup is related to the utility which we utilize into the database, which is something we take as a DB2 backup name where you are going to store the backup. Okay, so what is offline backup and what is online backup? So online backup is basically not something which you can immediately take after creating your database. So to achieve the online backup, if you want your database to be taken, uh, if you want your backup to be taken as an online on the database, you probably have to make sure certain recovery options has been set. So let's say you do not have any recovery features set, but you want to take the backup. As soon as you created the database and you basically started connecting to the data, so that very backup which you think about it is the offline backup. Let so apart from that, if you want to go with the online backup, first of all, when your database is just created without having any option changed, okay, so then you cannot take the online backup. So offline and online backup are differentiated by specifying the keyword. So when you want to take the offline backup, you don't have to specify any specific keyword like offline or something like that. But when you need to take the online backup, you need to make sure you are putting online as a keyword with the command. So let's see that what is that. So offline backup, again, like, you need to make sure your database is not connected to any of the application when you're basically trying to achieve this. Another part is enable logging archival. So I want to little bit touch about the logging functionality. Logging in basically Whenever you do any activity or every activity on the database, you want to track that. You want to make sure your database knows like what is happening on the database, be it any kind of activity, be it basically creating a single table, be it updating the data in it, be it basically inserting some rows, be it deleting some rows, be it performing any kind of sort of activities, any object creation on the database, any DML operation. DML is nothing basically data manipulation language. Anything you manipulate with the data, insert, update, delete, and select, you want your database to capture that. So how you need to achieve that? You need to make sure your database understands that. To achieve that, there is certain parameters which you need to set up, that we'll discuss in the next sections. So enabling logging feature, you understood from this part, is by default the database has a circular mode of logging. So if you do the circle mode of logging, certain things you cannot basically recover. So to recover sort of things, you need to make sure your database is in archiving mode. So archiving mode, every transaction you are committing, it is basically getting tracked. So later on we will discuss. I'll prepare another separate video as to why the archiving logs are important. I think nutshell, if you understand why we are basically enabling the log archiving mechanism or strategy on the database, because to make sure we can take the online backup, we can take the tablespace level backup. So we'll show you the errors on that, like how what we talk about. So tablespace level backup, like let's say we have almost 20 tablespaces or 100 tablespaces in the database. Instead of we being going and taking the full database backup, which is not needed, if on some of the changes you can do the tablespace backups. So one ideal use case is, let's say for example, there are changes on a couple of tables you're doing it, and you're performing the change on production environment. So instead of you taking the backup of entire database, which is of maybe terabyte in size, you better go the tables which you are affecting and the table space associated to it, take the backup just specific to the table spaces, to the table which you're modifying. Okay, so that way it will be easy to take the backup, it will be less in volume. So there are use cases where you need to think about, like when you need to take the tablespace backup. So tablespace backup on the partition database, there is a special commands needs to be executed when you have a partition databases, be it a logical, be it a physical. You cannot use the same command which you're executing into the traditional database. So traditional, what you mean is when your database is not partitioned, it's a single partition. Okay, so how to enable the backup of the DB2 database or tablespace backup? There are two type of backups we can take in the DB2 for databases. For database, offline backup, online backup. As I already talked about, step one, whenever you're going to take the offline backup, make sure list the application which is connected to the database. Reason being why we are listing the applications, because we need to kill them. There should not be idly any connection to the database if you're hitting the offline backup. If there is, DB2 will not let you run the DB2 backup command. We will see how it works. Okay, so there is a command which you need to execute, that is a DB2 terminate or DB2 connect reset, to make sure all the connections are terminated and resetted from the database. In other words, if you want to do more reactive approach on that, you can deactivate the database so that nothing should be connecting to the database. Even though if there is any kind of transactions, in doubt transactions or any uncommitted transactions are left, the moment you do the DB2 deactivate database, it will all roll back. It will come to the stable state. Okay, so now you can try the backup to the disk. So as of now, I don't have any other thing. So there can be other utilities which you can use to take the backup. One is like when I say disk, it means it's nothing but a local drive on that machine. It could be an NFS, it could be shared, but there are other backup solutions like NetApp, Netezza, TSM, Veritas. There are many vendors in the market who provides you the backup solutions. Command remains the same. Only thing is like the storage part would be handled by those vendors, which I gave you an example. So if I need to take the example DB2 backup database sample to the disk. Disk is nothing but a path. So again, the ideal practice is this is the command which you need to connect to the database, queues the database with the immediate force connections. It will kill all the connections. Connect reset. If anything you feel you connected to the database, then run DB2 backup database to the path, compress without prompting. After backup completes, again you can try to connect to the database, unqueue the database, and connection reset. Same thing like how you need to take the backup, online backup specifically. First, we need to check first what is our logging mechanism. As I mentioned when I talked about logging, before hitting the online backup command on the database, we need to make sure we are in archive mode of the database. How do we check that? There's a parameter called as log arg meth1. So look for the parameter log arg meth1 in this to set it off. In this, it is set it off. It means when you run this particular command, for example, db2 get dbcfg for sample grep I log, enter. So these commands will give you basically what are the log parameters which is there on the DB, which is set up for your database. So find it out for specific log parameter, which is log arg meth1, and see what is set up there. If it is set up to off, by default it is off. It means your circular mode of logging is enabled. I'll prepare, just taking a pause, I'll prepare a separate video on the archiving log, because there was a recommendation to take the backup basically video, prepare a or create kind of, I would say, a backup video on the table spaces and the database specifically when we don't have in archive mode, when we are in archive mode, how it behaves, when we don't have archive mode, how it behaves. So same thing which you need to do is db2 update dbcfg using log argmath. This is a syntax disk db2 home db2 inst1, provided that this particular directory which I'm putting in next to the disk, it should be existing on the database server, right? Then once you have done with that, you can run the same command again, db2 get dbm cfg for sample grep with I, and see like whether log argmath is set up or not. There are other parameters which you need to set up. That is good always to set up with. Okay, if not, it's done. Like active log path, primary, secondary log file count, or log buffer file. I'll show you like how it is uh, been there, and how you need to change that. How to verify the backup? There's a command db2 check backup, location name, backup file name, right? How you get this location file name? db2 list backup, list history backup for all sample database. Like this is a command, this is the history of the backup taken. So this command will give you the exactly where your backup is taken, be it a TSM, as I said, be it is a NetApp, be it is a Netiza, or be it like Veritas solutions. So if at all you have used the backup solution, let's say for example, if you this one TSM, if you want to use, you can use this particular command to take the backup in TSM utility, right? So Veritas is this. If you want to take that backup on the Veritas server, you can run this command. So this is nothing basically which is defined already. This is a NetApp, not NetApp, basically Veritas library which you need to run, which is defined, which has a host information, which has a disk information, how many nodes are there. Those informations will be available in this particular lib file. Okay. So again, like, if you might have seen, like, what is a parallelism 2 with 6 buffers, 2 sessions, what is it? So here are certain examples. Open n sessions, what it says means, this parameter is only valid if the use TSM option is used at the DB backup. If specified, the backup process will open n IO sessions to the Tivoli storage manager. So what is the TSM basically? It's basically Tivoli storage manager. So there are a lot of Tivoli tools which you get to see is used in the DB2. Okay. Then with number of buffers, the number of buffers should be sessions plus parallelism plus 2. Also, the following calculation must fit. So this is the calculation basically. You need to make sure you have a right parameter sets on the database before enabling any of the parallelism. So buffer pool size, this value is used as a buffer allocation size when building the backup image. Generally, it is allocated as a 4K page size, but it can be increased. Parallelism again. So what is basically thing to understand? We recommend setting the buffer pool to the multiple of the extent size. Okay. You need to make sure like what is the extent. Extent is basically the group of pages. Okay. If the multiple table spaces have different extent size, the buffer size should be the multiple of the largest extent size. So for example, you have a 4K page size, 8K page size, 16K page size, 32K page size. You need to make sure you're using the large extent size for the calculation. Okay, so parallelism will help you to basically achieve parallelism, multi-threaded architecture, so that your backup will be faster. If you are not using that, it will be again like slow down. Okay, so same thing again, like, what about the tablespace backups in DB2? In order to perform tablespace level backup, you need to enable the database for archival logging. Same thing which I initially mentioned. If you want to run a specific tablespace backup, not for the entire database, we need to make sure our log arg method 1 is set. Okay. Another thing is tablespace backup in the DPF environment. DPF is basically a data partitioning feature, be it logical, be it physical. Physical means you have a multiple machines, you have a more core power, you more have a CPU power, you more have a storage power, right? Logical means one machine with the multiple nodes to achieve the parallelism, right? So logical partition means one server with the multiple partitions. Physical partitions means one server with the multiple partitions. Inclusion of logical and physical. So we'll talk some other day with the additional video. Reason being, this you cannot understand DPF in just one sentence or one command or with 10 commands or 20 commands. It's altogether a process, altogether architecture. So this is the command. If you, let's say for example, you're running the same, this is the same idle command. If you see this command doesn't have any issues. It is the same. But when you run this command, DB2 backup database sample table space user space 1 online to this one, it means what we are doing is we are taking online backup. There is nothing called the offline backup of the table space. Okay, so you need to take just only online backup of the table spaces. You will get this error. What it says, SQL 2066N, the command failed because the specified table space either does not exist or not supported with the specified command. So this command doesn't, since this command is used on the partition database. Okay, so this is what it says. If you see this one, how do you check that basically the error in DB2's? Simple, DB2 space question mark space with the question, with the error which you receive. It will give you the nice, because it has an internal build document which will give you the entire error. Okay, what it says, this command failed because the specified table space either does not exist or not supported with this one. Same error which you got, right? Other, if you can go to the DB2 DAG log, you can get this information there as well. Obviously, it is logging, right? So now we have to check the table space existing on what all partitions of the database. Then this is a very nice command which I found on Google. You can write it. I think you can query to this particular sys IBM ADM TB SP underscore utilization table. It has a lot of information to capture to see. So what it says, table space name is this one. It is on the 3 different partitions. So there is a one way. The first way is this. You need to basically export DB2 node equal to 1. Then DB2 terminate echo. When you run the echo DB2 node, it will give you that which node you are in. Then run this particular command. Same way, you need to export until 3. Then run this command. If you don't want to go for each node, there is a command DB2 backup database test DB. Or maybe you can put something like in test DB and given an example. You can give, in our case, there is a sample database on all database, partitions, table space 1 online to the backups. So what will happen is when you take the backup of your user space 1 table space, you will get basically the image written into the backups. And if I'm not wrong, there will be 3 different images. One is for one is for second, one is for third. Okay, with that one, let's jump into the practical session of it and see how it goes. So with that, I'll open up this terminal. So let's say, for example, let's log into the system. Okay. So for example, see, if I go where, let's say, for example, to see the error, right? Let's directly jump into the one issue. Let's say, if I'm running this command, okay, without DB2 backup database sample. So let's say, let's see first of all dff-h, okay, dff-h. So let's hit some of the commands here. df-h. Okay, you see there's a backup directory I have already created. So let's go and copy this one, paste. Or if I don't want to put that one, let's db just pwd. Okay, so you can go to the cd, or you don't want to go to cd, let's do db2 backup db sample 2 db2 db backup. Okay, let's run this. Okay, it's saying an attempt to access media is denied. So probably let's say pwd, we may not have access to this particular path, but let's see that. Okay, probably we don't have access, but let's see. Okay, so let's do sudo let's come out of this. Okay, so we should be sudo, let's say dff and h cd again, let's go to db2. Okay, ch on recursive -r. Let's do one thing first before doing that. id db2 inst. We are changing the ownership of that particular directory. Okay, so we'll show you how to do that. So again, let's clear it. Since my putty session is not working, we'll see why it is not working. Okay, so ls-lrt ch on -r. So ideally it should be this one, this way, copy, paste, paste. Come on, man. Let's type it. Okay, db2 nst1 and st1. What is that? db2 iadm. Okay, so since these are all related to this one, let's put star. Okay, so by this mistake, I should have given this. Okay, so let's see let's say -lrt, we should be good. Okay, so we can do one thing now, switch to db2 nst1. Okay, pwd dff and let's say cd db2 db backup. Okay, let's see if we can touch this. Touch is the command basically. Okay, so we are good. -a. So let's go back. Okay, so what we will do is db2 backup db sample to db2 db backup to db bck backup. Okay, so I think probably we can open another session. Okay, so we are lucky enough. I think it has taken. So generally, for example, when you have an application connected to it, it won't let you give that backup. So ideally, It's good it has been executed, but otherwise what happened when it says like database is not in connectable mode? So what we need to do is we need to execute all those basically commands, DB2 terminate, DB2 connect. If you're taking the offline backup on the production or non-production environment, generally we're not supposed to take the offline backup on the production unless until it is recommended, because it requires the downtime. Okay, so these are the steps which you need to execute basically to take the offline backup. Let's say for example, I don't have any archiving mode at the moment. So for example, DB2 get dbcfg for sample. Okay, same command which I said, like, to see whether it has archiving mode. So if you see here, maximum number of application. So if you see log buffer size, it's a 256. Log file size, it's a 100, 1000 multiplied by 40,000. I would say 4,000. Yeah, you can multiply, like, 400 KB, 4,000 KB basically. Number of primary files is 3. Secondary files is always larger in number. Path to active logs, it's by default setted. It's not modified at all. Okay, so if you keep on going, look for the parameter which I told you to see that. First, log arg method. So it's a log arg method is off. It means currently it is not in archive mode. So if I go here and let's say what we had it, let's say for example dffnh. Okay, so let's take this directory. For example, okay, let's just take this directory as in, for example, I'll not take that backup. I'll not basically change that. I just wanted to show what error it gives you. DB2 DB backup. Okay, so let's say for example, let's run this command online to this particular path. Okay, so let's see what it says. Let's say for example DB2 backup, DB2 backup, DB sample. You can write full name or you can give the DB to DB as well. Online, as I said, you need to specify if you want to take the online backup. For offline, you don't have to specify anything, but when you say online, it means it is specifically talking about the online backup. Okay, two, again DB2 DB backup. Okay, um, maybe we can put that, but it's okay. Compress include logs. Why we need to put the include logs means online backup is active database. So when your database is active, then only you are taking the backup of the database. So you need to specify whether you want to include the logs or exclude the logs. Okay, because at that moment the activity are going on. But when you take the offline backup, you need not to necessarily specify the include logs, because there is no activity happening on the database. The all over intention to add include logs means you want to include the logs while doing the activity, anything which is committed. Okay, let's hit enter. So you see this error. It says SQL2413N. Online backup is not allowed because the database is not recoverable, or the backup pending condition is in effect. There's a two causes, right? One thing is your database is not in recoverable mode. When I said, like, there is a circular logging doesn't give you the recoverable mode of the database. If you want your database to be in recovery state, you can recover the data. Okay, you need to specify the log arg meth one, meaning you're making sure your database is recoverable in any point of time when there is something wrong on the database. Otherwise, what will happen in circular logging? It's nothing, it's just a ring topology. Every log may be rewritten again, so there is no chance of recovery. But when you go for the active log, every log will be the new log, unless until you reach to the maximum limit of the log files. Okay, for every transaction there will be an archive log, provided that if it is committed. Okay, so we know, like, what has to be achieved here. So let's go back. Okay, we have already ran this one. We'll see, like, what is our dedicated path I've given for this one. So there are certain things we need, which we need to bounce the instance for. So let's see what are the parameters we need to basically make sure to change. So first we'll change basically log primary are not required. Uh, we'll see new log path. Okay, new log path. Okay, so new log path and then your log out map, blah 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 blah. That's fine. That should be fine. So before that we go df-h. We need to see, like, okay, cd db2 db2 inst1 inst1 cd. Then again you will see there is a file logs. Okay, pwd pwd. Okay, so now we need to go and update this. Since this is a very small database, so we can make sure, like, things are on the place. We will not be doing a lot of modification to this log parameters. But yeah, as if we keep on increasing the strength of the transactions, yes, for sure we will basically take care of uh, other parameters. Okay, db2 update. Okay, dbcfg for sample database, obviously using new log path equals to db2 db2 inst1 logs. Enter. Okay, we're done. Next parameter is db2 update dbcfg for sample using log arc meth1. What is that? I will disk. Okay, so since I have not basically taken the command, I mean the path, df-h, we can take that. Let's see. I'm sure we have created. So where is db2 archive logs? Okay, fine, fantastic. Let's say db2 update dbcfg for sample using log arc meth1. Okay, disk db2 archive logs. Done. Okay, so now if I go db2 get dbcfg for sample grep-i logs. Probably okay. So if you see here, maybe I will put log, right? So see, log arc method one. Let's basically take the same command again. Let's see if my tablespace backup is going to execute. So we can take the history as well, but let's see. Enter. So same thing. So we need to basically test one thing. db2 connect to sample. Okay. So why we were not able to do that? One thing is very important. When you're basically turning the log arc meth one on, or in other words, you can say that when you're basically changing the circular logging to the archival logging, your database goes into the backup pending state. Okay, because you're changing the recovery model of the database. First, your database was not recoverable, or I would say non-recoverable. Now your database would be recoverable. So when you're switching to the circular to archival, your database has to identify whether I am able to do those activities or not. To do that, you need to basically make sure you are coming out of the backup pending state. Because see, when there is now your database will be logging the moment you do any activity post bringing database out of this position. If I'll see what this error says, SQL 1116N. Okay, so it says the specific database requires a backup to be taken to provide a starting point for the recovery, as I mentioned, right? So you need to give, because you're changing the recovery model, so you need to give at least start from where you want to start. So to get out of this particular situation, let's say some may be saying like, yeah, we can do that by running the online backup. Then let's run this online backup. You were not able to run the backup, right? That's what you're seen. You have seen the error, right? See, that's what I was able to show you. So some you may say like, you may get some question in mind like, okay, fine, I can run the online backup, full online backup to get out of this particular state. But no, you cannot. To get out of this particular state, you need to basically go backup DB sample to dev null. Why I'm using dev null? That's a good question to be asked here. We are using dev null is because I don't want to take the backup of it, but I want to take the backup of it. So dev null is a dummy directory, I would say, null directory given to us to do any of the work which I don't want to log. Okay, this is the simplest and a layman definition of dev null. So in other words, a tricky question, when you have a large volume of data, by mistake somebody has put your database in backup pending state. At that moment, what will you do? It's not just only database. For example, tomorrow your tablespace goes into the backup pending state. Your table goes into the backup pending state, or maybe any load pending state or recovery state. This is the option you should use. This is very efficient method to use. Okay. My bad, it's timed out. Okay, hit enter. You'll see it will take the backup. Okay, so now your backup is done. Let's go back. Let's run that backup, which I was supposed to take. So there is a DB2 list utilities you can run in another session to monitor. There's a DB2 top -D database name. You can see that whether the backup is running. See, the backup is gone. Now let's say take the backup. So now it means this worked for us. Same thing you can do for the other backup solutions like TSM, Veritas. But since I don't have these tools at the moment, I can attest that part. Okay. And another thing is to how, for example, as I showed you, like, for example, you want to see that list tree. You want to see when the last packet has, let's say, for example, backup happened, how, where it has happened, where the DB2 basically taken the backup. DB2 list, history, backup, all for sample. Okay, so let me show you this command and the output of this command. You see this one? It will give you everything: backup, database type, timestamp, full backup, okay, which first log, current log, right? Every information about like, how many table spaces it backed up. See command even though DB2 backup sample offline. Okay. So where was the location? Dev null. Now you see this one, another backup. See backup. Object is database. And type is N means online backup. Okay. See this command. Location is same thing which you have done. Now we'll take the basically DB2 backup of the table space. Then you get to see like, how it gives them. So this command is very helpful to give you the entire information about uh, what was information about the backups. Okay, so let's put this one DB2 DB backups. Okay, so let's say for example, just to test with, I want to take this way. I don't want to put online. Does it work? No, it doesn't work. DB2 backup DB sample. Let me put this way. DB2 backup DB sample table space user space 1 2. Oh, I forgot about it. I don't want to put the position. See here, it took it. It means it's an offline backup. So how do I need to check whether it's an offline or online backup? Same command. Okay. You see here, type is F. Now it's a table space level backup. Okay. So it's given you the table space backup. But one thing I just wanted to check with this is online 2, DB2, backup. Backup DB sample, table space 1, online, blah, blah, blah. Right? You see here? So generally the command which it gives the DB backup, but it'll give you the different backup name. But it'll give you the how many backup table space backups, table spaces we included. But you see here, it's again offline. Type, I think probably type F is offline, N is online. Now you see that OP, OP means operation is backup. Okay. Now you see here is P. Earlier it was a D, right? That is what it is. That is what it is, right? How to see that? See here. If you see this one, operation is backup, object is D. When you see the table space part is table space part, in table space part it is giving the different part. It was giving the error basically. Yeah. Okay. In table space cases, it is giving the P. So That is all about. So for partition, I cannot tell you the testing part. Reason being because I don't have an environment to test that, right? So this is all about, guys, like how we can take the backup. So there is a few learnings on that as to how you need to run that backups, what is needed to take the backup of, right? What kind of backups you can take in DB2. So with that, I'll stop here. I think for any queries and questions, you can type into the comment section. I would love to answer those queries, right? And again, I would emphasize on that. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe this channel, like this channel, and share as much as with your friend, your colleagues, your working partners, right? So that they can also take the benefit of these sessions and uh, and drive through with knowledge of the database, specifically at the moment DB2. But yes, as I'm planning to have more and more sessions with the latest and greatest technologies of clouds as well, including RDBMS, like RDS, like Snowflake, right? So stay tuned with upcoming videos. And why I'm saying like to subscribe, because subscribe and click on the bell icon so that whenever I'm submitting the new video, uploading the new video, you would be the first person to see and comment that particular video on and take the benefit of the knowledge which I'm trying to impart with all of you guys. So thank you everyone for your valuable time. Have a nice day.